Let's talk about the Ouya. Now, I've had this for just under a week, and I actually decided to play it for a while before I made a video. This banner that comes in the box, and so begins the revolution. This is important because the launch model had issues, a lot of issues that were fixed. And this banner said something else in the launch model. So if you buy one of these, make sure it says this and not "thank you for believing." So here it is. The first thing I want to say about this is that it's not an emulation machine. This is a new console, it's got its own library, and it's growing pretty rapidly. There were about 200 some odd launch games. Now there's about 300 some odd games on the market, and it's growing at, as things go, a pretty rapid pace. Let's talk about the emulation very briefly, and then I'm going to move on, because GameStar81 kind of went hard on the emulation side, and I think you can get just about all the information you're going to want from his video, which I'll link you in the description. I have seen this emulate NES, SNES, N64, although it's spotty, PS1, Atari 2600, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Genesis/Mega Drive, the Master System, the Neo Geo, and I've heard, I'm pretty sure there's a MAME emulator somewhere, though I haven't messed with it. That's what I've seen it emulate, and do okay. Now, there's some other emulation that is like just there for kind of testing purposes, like there's a DS emulator, but you're not really going to be able to play DS games on it. Here on the back, we see the ports. There is a USB port there. The USB port, at this time, does not support storage. Now, people are saying on the, well, no, it's said, this is not a rumor, that that's on the way, that will come in a future update. I don't really know why it's not there now, but it's not. Okay, so that's the emulation, and that's all I'm going to talk about there. Some of the things I liked about this console. Well, for what it's worth, parents, my 3-year-old thinks this is the greatest thing in the world. The library has, on the upside, the parental ratings in the library are nice and prominent so I can see them. The downside is that the prices are not. So things that are free and things that have a premium, you got to download the game and play it to find out. You should know that it does require a credit card to use. When you first hook it up, you have to make an account, and you do need to put in a credit card to do it. You cannot back out and put in, continue on without it. I tried, it wouldn't let me. Also, they fixed a couple of things that were common issues when it first came out. The Wi-Fi was dropping a lot. Since I got this, I have never had a single Wi-Fi drop. They must have fixed that with a firmware update. Also, I did a complete controller analysis. I guess I'm not going to talk about the controller too much. The touchpad was really, really awful, I hear, when it first came out. Now it's not that bad. I think they fixed that with a firmware update. GameStar81 had a queue issue with the system. You could set 10 things up to queue, and you wouldn't be able to see your queue, what's downloading. That's been fixed. If you go to your library with 10 things in your queue, you will see 10 blocked out games with a progress bar, so you can see that. The problems with it is that in the shop, when you're looking at games, the prices are not front and center. It just shows you the 300 some odd games that are available for download, and it doesn't show you which ones are free, and it doesn't show you which ones cost. They do have descriptions, and a lot of the descriptions will tell you, but, what are you going to do? Other issues, there's only 8 gigabytes of storage on here, and if you're into emulation, that's not going to do it, especially if you like PS1 emulation. Also, especially if you're planning on doing emulation on this, I have noticed this needs a little bit more tinkering than the average console. There have been several instances where I've had to figure out what's going on. Example is the controller. I had latency issues. Alright, I'd press the button, and like 2 seconds later the action would happen. Couldn't figure out what was going on. As it turns out, the Bluetooth connection between the controller and the console is not as strong as a PS3. So what was happening was the controller was too far away. The distance between my couch and the TV had been so far that it was breaking the network. That's the I wager a guess that's the reason why people say, one of the reasons people say the latency issues are better when you use the PS3 controller. Must be better Bluetooth hardware here. And if that's the case, then if they release another model of the controller sometime, then maybe that'll be fixed. But that's the thing. I was able to solve that by, well, I sit on this stool and play by the TV. So that's one issue. There are some corners they had to cut to keep the price at $100. So what I'm hoping is that as hardware in general becomes cheaper, they'll make future models of it that work better. For example, have more storage space and have better Bluetooth connection, and maybe they'll fix some of the issues with the controller, because there are some. It's a very usable controller, but it does have some problems that you should know about going in. And if you want to know more in detail about that, watch my controller analysis video. And my final note before I hang it up, the games library. There are some really good games in the library. However, there is no license fee to make games for this. Consequently, some developers have decided to have some fun with it and made some really weird games. For example, there's a game where you dress up in a frog suit and you jump into things or something. And that is a game that shows up in a lot of videos when people want to slam the library. I don't think that's fair, because that game is not indicative over the entire library itself. It's just an example of some of the weird stuff some people have made. Another example is the game Just Rain. That's not a game. That's a meditative app that makes rain noises so you can concentrate on your homework and whatnot. However, I've seen videos where that game is featured front and center as an example of the game's library. I don't think that's fair. Yes, of however many games there are, last time I looked it was 300 plus, there are some really weird games. There's a game called Don't Eat Soap, which is about, eventually turns out to be a Bubble Bobble clone. It's weird stuff, okay? But there's also really good stuff. And once again, no fee, no license fee to create games for this console. If you've ever wanted to be a game developer, this is the time to do it. Download the dev kit and start learning some coding and try and make some games. And you know what? I'm going to take my best shot at it. I think you can use Game Maker as well. However, that means you have to have Game Maker Professional, and that means you have to have, I'm pretty sure that means you have to have the Android plugin for Game Maker Professional. And both of those together, if you don't have either one, is going to be about $300. So I don't think I'm going to go that route, but hey, that's a route you can take. Because of the software issue, because there not being a lot of software, because that's one of the big draws that they're working on, it's going to live and die by the games. Because of that, there is a lot of support right now on the Ouya forums of future developers. If you got a game in the works, you can post your APK. People will sideload it and look at it for you, and try and give you some help. So this is it. If you've ever wanted to make a game or something like that, this is the time to do it. But that doesn't necessarily make it a developer's console. I haven't messed with the dev tools at all yet, but just playing with it. I've had a good time. So, is it worth $100? Yes, very much so. Is it as good as a PS3 or an Xbox 360? No, not at all. If you like AAA games, this probably is not the console for you. I really enjoy quirky games, indie games, that sort of thing. So I have been loving it. But once again, understand that going in. If you play a lot of, Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, whatever, this is not really going to cater to you. It caters more to the indie crowd, and because of that, I mean, I love it. I think you should check it out, even if you have a 360. Wager the $100, because you know what? I did, and I really enjoy it. But alright, that's the Ouya. After 1 week of use. Maybe I'll do another video after I've had it for a few months. Maybe not. But anyway, $100 well spent. I really enjoy it. Thanks for watching, guys.